Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we begin day 3 of Palm Expo conference program. We start the day with an insightful panel discussion on high-end lighting for special venues. This session explores the time-tested principles that are respected while installing today's lighting production possibilities to produce shows that the paying public will return to time after time. This session will be moderated by VIRAF POCHA, while RASESH PAREKH, BUNTY Raj, Kristen HERTEL, and Charles BARDEY will be joining us at the panel. Mr. VIRAF POCHA, Director, Landmark Productions Private Limited, is a chartered accountant by education who entered the world of stage management and lighting design. He has been active in the world of both theater and events for over 40 years. RASESH PAREKH from Integrated Entertainment Solutions was inspired by light, and being a technocrat, started his foray in intelligent lighting and sound business in 1996 as the sole distributor for intelligent lighting from high-end systems. A fourth-generation businessman, an engineer by education, and an artist by heart and hobby, RASESH found his true calling in this field of light, sound, and SFX, giving him best of all worlds, creative, tech, and entertainment. BUNTY Raj, Technical Support in MA Lighting International, APAC region, has been working with MA Lighting since February 2023. He has been in the lighting industry for 8 years and has worked for various rental companies in India, UAE, and KSA. One of his biggest projects has been the MDL Beast Soundstorm in 2022. For those of you who are familiar with MADRIX, Kristen HERTEL will be the one you associate as the face of MADRIX. Kristen travels to the most trade shows to represent the company. He is responsible for the sales and distribution network of MADRIX. Charles BARDEY is a seasoned professional for over 25 years of experience in the live performance and performing arts industry. He has executed the opening and closing ceremonies of the South Asian Games in Sri Lanka, the National Games, and the Youth Commonwealth Games in India. Currently, Charles is with the NMACC as the part of the core team, where his expertise lies in solutions for technical production for projects and operations. Can we please have a big round of applause for our moderator and the panelists?
Thank you. Thank you for being here, for waking up after all the parties last night and somehow struggling to get here bright and early at 12:30 in the afternoon. Okay, to just put things into perspective, I want to start by, questioning everybody here is what is the meaning of high-end venue, okay? Where I'm coming from is, and some of you may, I'm sure some of you will have an opinion, that I have been into some homes in India that perhaps have got more technology than a lot of venues that exist in this country, right? So fortunately, we have with us a certain gentleman who's sitting far away from me, Mr. Charles BARDEY, who perhaps has got the most experience of high-end venues. He's been managing them ever since. I mean, I met him as a manager of one, and he continues to grow and is also managing probably the most high-end venue in the country today. So let's run the question by him first and ask him to just put some kind of definition of what is the meaning of a high-end venue.
Hi, good afternoon everyone and welcome to this seminar. VIRAF, thank you so much. High-end venue actually is a very large space where you talk about, and venues which could be technologically wise very, very advanced in terms of technology, which is the latest equipment technology that come in and all the integration that is done with all these fascinating gadgets that we have. Also, high-end venue for me is something where the aesthetics, the look, the charisma of the space which is there. It's a mix of these two together. I mean, an architect's vision and technology experts' mind together makes a high-end venue for us.
Christian, would you like to add to that? Because you can give us perhaps an international perspective on how you would define. Let me just clarify over here very, very quickly. is a high-end venue need not be the largest venue in the city, correct? Because as I'm sure you know, there are some conference venues or some specific built venues which perhaps contain more high-end equipment than some spaces which have just got massive scale. So could you give us some perspective on what you would define as a high-end venue?
I'm Christian from MADRIX, and I'm traveling a lot around the world. I see a lot of projects, no matter if I'm on site or on videos. High-end venue could be also multi-purpose, and we are seeing this as a big change in the industry globally. I was in the beginning of the year in Dubai at the trade show, Light Middle East was the name. And there we saw, stadiums where you can play football, soccer, or other games. And we saw the very first products for, I don't know the right name, but the high lights, the white, bright lights, which are illuminating the stadium. What is the name?
Floodlights.
Floodlights, thank you. So these new floodlights we saw in Dubai are now pixel mapping. So you can pixel map these floodlights. And these guys are selling the floodlights to any stadium globally. So a high-end venue could be like multi-purpose, like where you play soccer. On top you have festivals. You can use the standard floodlights in the stadium, pixel mapping, controlling them individually for an amazing light show. In the case of soccer, you can even control or follow the ball on the field using this technology. So I think the future is quite bright, no matter if it's normal LED lights or like floodlights or whatever.
Very interesting perspective. Thank you, Christian. Bunty, would you like to, given all the concerts you have done around the world,
Definitely.
Actually, let's get more specific. Which is the high-end venue that you have most enjoyed performing in? Or when I say performing, I mean operating in, and why would that be your your favorite venue?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bunty, and I'm from Tech Support, MA Lighting International. For me, high-end venue would be a stadium where we can integrate our system that we are bringing in with the environmental system in terms of, as Christian was saying, floodlights. So how we can integrate the technology into their system where it would be easy for us to control it from our side. Like there'll be challenges where they don't have the technology to control or convert our protocols into their protocols and control it. That would be definitely challenging for us where I personally try to figure out how can we integrate this into our system. Yeah, for me, high-end would be a stadium, a cricket stadium, or can be a football stadium, because things are definitely not easy in terms of sending data from one point to another point, because everywhere in the world we don't have fiber optics to send information. So how can we get through this to get the final product would be challenging for me.
You have a name of a stadium that you particularly enjoyed working in?
It would be again. It's in Al Ain. It's in Al Ain, one of the venues in
Emirates,
Dubai.
Yeah. And it's the interesting thing is that Al Ain typically is not really known for high-end stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, and I think one of the characteristics there very clearly means that it's one of the newer venues.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So because it's not one of the top Emirates, perhaps it waited for a while to get a venue.
Yeah.
But now that it's got a venue, we've got a guy saying that it's probably the best venue in the UAE. So that's something to learn from.
Yeah, because they have integrated everything, and we did sound, light, video, and the venue lights with the pyros together on a time code, and that was super challenging for me or for the team to get through it. That would be a good venue for me, yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So the big guys don't have the advantage that they had at one time. Good, technology is the leveler.
Yeah.
What about this young gentleman?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is RASESH PAREKH. I'm the proprietor for Integrated Element Solutions. This is the 28th year of operation. So when we say high-end, that's the beginning of our company, because we were the distributors for a company called High-End Systems from Austin, Texas. And much to its name, we started with fixtures which are not seen in the country. So the term itself, when you say high-end, is like, as Charles pointed out, very broad. And over these years, we've seen different verticals emerge, grow, and find their own spaces from the time we started, which was a very nascent industry. So today, as VIRAF pointed out, we have extremely high venue installations in private places, Hyderabad, Pune. I can't name the clients because they themselves are extremely high profile. But you'd be surprised, because one of them, when I had to take a look at it, the drawings, and I saw a helicopter on the top of his terrace. And then I realized, oh, that's the person we're talking about, because even the integrator has not told us the name of the end client. So I said, this must be important. So this is like a residence. Then you have, like I said, stadiums. Now, what we are seeing is that, yes, India is seeing bigger stadiums with IPL. We are seeing stadiums in places which we had never seen before. And it's a matter of time where these are fixed installations so that they can deliver maybe more. I mean, Olympics is on its way. Hopefully we will get it. Yeah, I think there should be a cheer among all of us if we are there. So again, the whole world, the whole term of high-end will again change, where we need to upscale our whatever we are providing to and showcasing to the world.
I think the biggest takeaway for me, at least, has been that we're moving away from entertainment venues to sports venues, right? And obviously, with the incredible successful of IPL in India, that's kind of blazing the trail for sports stadiums to become entertainment centers, and not just sports stadiums in the city.
Can I interject?
Please, please.
The other vertical that we are seeing a huge change from over the years is now mega clubs. Population
Sorry,
is
say again, please.
For
The what
entertainment, mega clubs.
Mega clubs. Sorry.
Mega clubs were 10,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet clubs, and in very, very B towns or C towns, so as to say, where one would expect. I mean, I would be snobbish to say that it would be A town, but the fact is that because of the economy, because of the connectivity, logistics, everything that's going right for this country, we are seeing this kind of growth happening. Again, at the end of this month, literally this month, is one of the biggest mega clubs that's opening. I can't again reveal. You will watch us on our pages to see that. So from stadiums to clubs to other venues, private, at every point we are seeing there is a jump in the high-end part of it. High-end, again, I would add and close it at this, as that it's not only about technology, it's about the ambience, it's about the experience, I would say, rather than anything else.
I think the main thing, the main takeaway for me at least has been that what are the kind of venues that are attracting the most people? I personally am a little disappointed that it's not the theater, but obviously people are more interested in sports and in dancing the night away to that terrible music. Anyway, that's totally me, okay. All right, so what's really interesting to emerge is that cricket, sorry Christian, in India cricket is huge. Right? So cricket, so that's something where you need to start to refocus your energies in. Cricket seems to be, and for me, I've done a little bit of work in cricket stadiums. And when I used to walk into a cricket stadium, I'd see those big towers looming over me and curse them. Because in the old days, it would take 20 minutes for the lights just to warm up, right? And when we would recommend that, can you put the lights off in the drinks break or lunch break or whatever. Lunch break, of course, now is 9 o'clock in the night in day-night matches, so that we can actually, have the lighting to show some effect in the stadium. We were told, shut up, buzz off. Everybody's interested in seeing the cricket. Nobody's interested in seeing your performers. Deal with it. I think that's fantastic now that those big 4 towers that have those incredible amount of technology, of equipment and power, can now be harnessed not just to see the match, but to also do the entertainment. And as the Americans have very clearly proved to us with basketball and with, the great, the Super Bowl halftime game, and to some extent IPL, correct? That whole marriage between entertainment and sports seems to be the future of high-end venues, yeah? Charles, you are a theater boy. very little chance of you having, playing cricket or football in your theater. But you have a lot of other conference rooms within the, within the venue that you work in, which are perhaps large enough to play football and cricket in. What is your take on the kind of technology that's different from what you've installed in your theater to what we just spoke about?
So, VIRAF, the difference actually is like how Bunty pointed out, and the connectivity to each end of the entire stadium. Over here, the venue is indoor. You know you're playing within the game. And it's easier to, to identify where the problem is. But in a stadium, when it's large and open, I mean, like a Super Bowl or like IPL, what we are talking is, when you lose connectivity somewhere, I mean, you lose the value of the high-end venue that you're trying to show. So that is for me, that is a major difference. Is it's easy when you're indoor. Of course, it's at the same time you have to be on your toes because you don't know. Like today's world, everything is on networking. Today, everything works on networking, and networking is so complicated. It's the AI, so it's very difficult to identify where exactly the problem is. So
good point. Christian, if I may, you've obviously had your roots in clubs and smaller, smaller venues. So like Charles outlined, what are the problems or what are the issues which are challenging you or you're really enjoying bringing your technology out of smaller venues and clubs and into these large stadiums you spoke about?
Yeah, so there are the industry of event entertainment. The people know DMX 512, for example. In these kind of environments, DMX 512 is new for the people. Most of them don't know this. They know networking, so network cable, Cat5 is okay. So there's technology on the market like ArtNet, which transports the DMX 512 data over network cable. These technology is used in these kind of environments. So, but because of this, there's a lot of network knowledge now necessary in these kind of environments. On top, I want to jump in regarding finding problems because there's technology on the market called RDM. And with RDM, and especially in these kind of environments, you can find problems much more faster than if you would use a fixture without RDM. And this is the change from nightclub to high-end venues. In nightclubs, most of the nightclubs don't use this technology. They are using very cheap, very affordable pixels, a lot of pixels, some moving lights, things like this. In these kind of high-end environments, you find high-end products, good quality products, with RDM, and you can do much more things there with technology than in nightclubs.
The interesting takeaway from what Bunty and RASESH were saying is that this is a huge plus for the smaller cities around the world. Because if a venue does not exist in the smaller city and they're building from ground up, probably they can get larger venues, and those larger venues and the small town guys are probably going to have access to more technology and therefore a richer user experience than we guys in the big cities. Am I right, Bunty?
Absolutely, yes. As Charles was saying about finding up problems, that's the reason people are concentrated on networking. First thing, monitoring. How can I monitor the system? Because it's not easy to go from one end of the stadium to the other end of the stadium. So how I can make it more easier for me to monitor this system? And how much time does it take to turn on that light, right? So when the game starts, it starts. Nobody can stop it. So when can I turn on the light? What should be the agenda to turn on the light? And how can I monitor it in terms of you have network switches, connectivity. There are super technologies where they just have one screen and they can see what is happening with the system. It's literally growing more and more. And yeah, I will definitely go with Charles' point.
Very interesting. RASESH, you had something to say?
Yes. When it comes to networking, we always have this need for speed and more data, which is growing by the second year. And there are tools. So I'm just going to add on to whatever all of them have said. There are tools, and I'm not trying to sell a product here, but if you look at it and we go wireless with wireless DMX, which has a very, when Christian was mentioning RDM. I'm not sure everybody knows. It is remote device management on a wireless network with no cables. So you are able to communicate over large distances. We have a 5-kilometer range. Again, MADRIX has a product which is called Radar, which monitors facade lighting. Imagine a tower which is 60 stories and a light's not working. So having a great product, a great venue, but also the backbone with networking becomes a very important aspect of it. And the tools exist. And as very rightly VIRAF said, the advantage is just like the phone. Is an example I'm giving, a kind of a parallel. We jumped certain leapfrog technology, and Indian telecom industry, the mobile phone came, we saw a revolution happen, the telecom revolution. And the same way, I think there is a revolution that's sweeping the country in these sectors as well now, because there is connectivity, there is data, and they don't have to go through the traditional, and LEDs here, solar panels are here. The list is endless.
My takeaway, Rashesh, is that while the smaller cities seem to be having a larger advantage on stadiums and clubs, what you touched on, and I'm thrilled to include that in high-end lighting venues, is architectural buildings. So when you're seeing the buildings in Bombay getting taller and taller, so far I don't know anyone that has installed lighting on a big facade. They do something, as a temporary thing to celebrate a festival. But the MADRIX has been used very successfully on some of the buildings when we have done Diwali and stuff. So can we talk for a minute on architectural lighting? You want to go first? Let Rashesh go first.
No, go ahead.
Okay, Christian, you have to say something on architectural lighting?
Yes.
Building facades? Yeah.
Yes. So regarding the multi-purpose thing, it's not only facade lighting, it's also for the stadiums. I'll give you an example. We have a project in Israel. It's a stadium. They play soccer, I guess, inside. And outside, there's a lot of pixels on the facade. And we are controlling them, of course. The idea was transporting what's happened inside to the outside. So when there's a soccer game, people can enjoy, even when they are crossing the road, where they see what's happened inside, the goals or whatever, like animations, what's happening inside. When there's festivals, of course, when you see like music, light shows, depending on the sound which happens inside. So you can transport what's inside to the outside. In architectural environments, like on facade lighting, well, when you go to China, Guangzhou, Shenzhen region, there's not a single building anymore which has no pixels. So maybe this comes to India, maybe this comes also to Europe. If it comes, you have the option to make advertisements, for example. In 2008, many years ago, there was a project in Bangkok we did. In Thailand, at that time, it was the world's largest tower, the BUNTY tower. It was a 360-degree LED installation on top of the building. And they put pixels on this. Our control solution was running there. The idea was selling advertisements there, like for BMW, Volkswagen, Coca-Cola, all this, at top of the building. And they have prime time and not prime time. So if you want to see your brand logo on prime time, you pay more. Conclusion, after like half a year, this investment on top of a building which was a high six-figure US dollar number was already paid with advertisements. So you can do advertisements, animation, make interesting effects to make, when you want to show what's inside of a building or outside or whatever. So there's a lot of opportunities.
That's amazing, because when I was a kid, we used to study a certain gentleman called Marshall McLuhan, who in the 1940s or 50s created this slogan saying that the medium was the message, right? And it's quite amazing now that the same principle is now holding, because in those days, a hoarding outside of a stadium said something, but now it's reached a point where the brand can actually transport what's happening inside the stadium to outside the stadium. So that just shows that technology is there, but it's still serving the idea and the principle of old. Those haven't changed.
Yes, I think as he rightly pointed out, and I'm adding to what you have to say, that architectural lighting, again, has a different verticals within itself. We are going from media, just lighting up a building, to a media facade. Also, architectural lighting for monuments and so many places of interest. Because as the country grows, the tourism grows, I think that is an architectural lighting that we are not touched upon yet. There is technology to do that. And I think we are increasing seeing projects across forts, temples, churches, mosques. So many places of interest in India. Ancient country with so much to offer. And with tourism on the rise, we see a vertical there as well.
Rajesh, I'm going to come back to this, okay, but let me just talk about one more thing before I come to this. I think you opened a chapter that I wanted to be talking about that's very interesting. But what I want to be talking about now is retrofitting, right? When now you're talking about taking old venues, right, which have got a fuddy-duddy image, right? And there are a lot of them littered around, I'm sure, in the world. But rather than, now you don't have to talk about brick and masonry. You don't have to change anything. But as Christian said, just a little bit of a media platform or a media screen or something outside can completely convert that into a venue of today. So in a situation like that, what are the challenges that you would address? And I'm specifically talking about the power that's required, the sight lines. Because again, Christian, from what you said, a lot of stadiums were built without really any thought of what they were going to look like from outside. Like you said, it was just a road. And while they wanted to make it a pretty building and presentable building, it wasn't really looked at as a signboard or a hoarding, right? So what are the challenges that you feel would need to be addressed to retrofit old buildings from both inside and outside and make them contemporary in today's world?
A very interesting point, because what happens is the retrofit that you're talking about, the old buildings, is actually they have to be renewed again. There's a lot of changes that needs to be done, because the old building which were very minimal lighting equipment that they had, or the audio that they had. But in today's world that we are looking at, the modern world, there is so much to do. It is almost 2-3 times the level of equipment that you're using. So it's very important to make a very strong structure. So you go back to the basics and have a very strong grid again on top. So you break the entire facade on top, build it again, and that's where your point comes about sightlines, because then you extend the space. It's very important when you create a stage to make sure when your seatings have been mapped, it's very important to mark your sightlines. The most important thing is your sightlines, because everything goes for a toss. Your lighting goes for a toss, your audio goes for a toss once your sightline is not proper. So marking the center from the stage into the auditorium seating mapping is the most important thing. But building the entire thing and restructuring it, making stronger than what it is the first step to getting retrofitted.
Yeah, so again, the lesson over here, it's an old lesson, is that when you're designing a theater, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to theater because that's where I cut my teeth, is that the idea was that whether you had a 200-seater auditorium or you had a 5,000-seater auditorium, the designer had a challenge to make sure that there was not a bad seat in the house, right? So, Christian, would you like to talk about retrofitting old buildings and sort of making them contemporary in today's cities?
Yes, but before I'm doing this, I want to go back to the theater and stages, because in high-end environments or theaters like this, you have tracking possibilities. You can track people on a stage and create immersive installations, which is a complete new level even for theater. So people are moving on a stage, and technology makes sure that the light effects, for example, automatically follow. Not even you have only a follow spot. You can follow or you can have effects in a real 3D environment, which is completely new, next level for like high-end stages or high-end theaters.
Yeah, in fact, just yesterday somebody was telling me something very interesting, that now stages are moving away from being at one end of a hall, and increasingly stages are coming into the center of the venue, right? And what's accompanying that is that the actual stage is revolving. And yesterday somebody was telling me that while the stage revolves, the lighting is adjusted so that the lighting on the rig, which is not revolving, adapts itself to the performer while he's rotating. I thought that was just spectacular. Bunty, you have something to say about that?
Yeah, definitely people are definitely interested in this tracking systems where, for example, yeah, recently for the Ed Sheeran concert, so there's a stage on the center. So the stage is so big where if the artist walks throughout the concert, he gets tired. So that is what the production crew have seen. Then what they did is they set a dial in the center. So as long the artist stays on the center and the dial moves so that it feels like he's communicating with the whole audience and he don't get tired. So what they did is they tried to integrate the system with a follow spot tracking system where as long as the dial moves, the light moves with the artist.
Very interesting. Rajesh, you have a take on this?
Yes, but I'm going to move away from the theater and go back to the question itself, that how do you retrofit for facade? And I have a very interesting case study where you have a site which is under ASI for people, it's Archaeological Survey of India, and that has been lit by traditional halogen or metal halide lamps. Now the question is that we want to create much more than what is traditionally being done. So yes, it's possible with LED lights with RGB and whatever have you. But the question remains, ASI is not going to let you dig up all over again. So what do? You use wireless DMX built into the light. And that's technology coming to your rescue, where power, what you mentioned, is less than before. If they were using 1,000 watts, they're going to use only a 200-watt light. So power's gone down. Your connectivity is better. And with remote device management, you could have one central site with one control center able to monitor what's going on. So yes, technology would help us to retrofit and yet give such more effects and whatever else that we bring to the media, or to the facades.
Christian, you want to say
Regarding the facade, it's also very important. With what I hear from my clients is when you put, you can go on eBay, buy cheap pixels, right? Very, very cheap. And you can put these pixels on a building to create a media facade, but this is for sure not what the owners want. And especially also not the architects. So you need to make sure that your fixtures, whatever it is, like an LED bar and pixel, this should complement the building. In the best case, in the daylight, you can't see it.
That's very interesting. Mm.
And in the nighttime, it comes on and it complements the building. This is super important. Because you see a lot of, sorry to say this, you see a lot of bullshit running on in China right now. They are just putting the cheapest pixels on the building, and after half a year, it's all dead. It's all failing. You know, it looks horrible.
Okay, at this point of time, I'm just going to depart a little bit, only because, you know, we've taken this discussion into many, many different myriad ways. So I just want to talk to the audience for 1 second and ask them, is that, are we running a little too fast? Because, you know, perhaps you've come into this discussion thinking about high-end venues in a particular way. You know, you perhaps when you've come in, you're thinking about high-end venues as only theaters or only stadiums. So, and suddenly we've opened it up to be pretty much any public space in any city can now suddenly become a high-end lighting venue, correct? So I just want to throw it open to the audience and just ask them that, are we comfortable with all this, or would you like something a little more to put it into a little more perspective, or are you all with us, or y'all are just too gobsmacked to say anything? Yeah, so is everybody comfortable with that? That's the main thing I'm talking about, right? So we've just opened the possibilities, we've opened the window to a lot more things than, you know, even I thought possible before the conference. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody's on the same page and we're carrying along. Because these guys are very passionate. They can talk 24 hours. I mean, you know, one of the things about our profession is that nobody in this all the three venues are here because of the money. Correct? Right? All of us are here for passion. And because it's passion, we can go on forever. So just to control that and just to make this whole thing valuable to everybody, I just want to keep things in perspective. Yeah? Okay, good. So that's out of the way. Now, I wanted to come back to you, and we're talking about now to say even temples, okay? Now, when you go to high-end buildings, right, that Christian was talking about, Coca-Cola just wants to make a splash, or BMW just wants to be at the cutting edge of technology. That's their only focus, correct? We want the attention, right? There is no historical data, nothing that's holding them back. But and that's what I wanted to come back to, is that, temple, sensitive installations, like something even like the Gateway of India, perhaps,
yes.
Which has has a very strong emotional connect to the city. Yes. And I'm sure every city would have a monument like that, right? Yes. So when you retrofit and make it into a high-end lighting venue, what are the challenges that you face when you want to go ahead and make something, make something different, or that the city see that monument in a slightly different way than they've been used to seeing it?
Very interesting question, because I think the challenge lies in the vision as to what is going to be depicted to the end audience. And we face this challenge over the years. I think VIRAF is also a part of all these challenges where it's a bureaucracy, or I don't want to get into that part of it, but that has been the biggest challenge.
No, apart from bureaucracy, just the sensitivity that you as an artist would bring to that project.
Agreed. In that case, let's take an example of Gateway of India. I've been called a number of times to do projection on it because I was one of the pioneers for large format projection called the PANI projectors, which are slide projectors. And that's where we have faced these challenges of what to depict and not. And yes, there is a commercial angle to every project that we have to make it successful. So while we are doing this, whether it's India Gate, whether it's Gateway of India, monuments which are really of prime, and we see that there are resistances from people who will say, don't do this on this, because sensitivity is that we do not want to see this. We want to see it in that same traditional format. So we have had chances, or we have had cases where we have refused. For India Gate, for example, which is very sacrosanct. Yes, there is a challenge on that front.
Okay, Christian, let me ask you something a little personal here, okay? Because I've had the pleasure and joy of visiting Dresden, right? And as you know, Dresden was a little affected a couple of decades ago, right? But you've built the city marvelously. And you've got a couple of buildings there, like the Opera House and the Cathedral, which are really spectacular and unique in the world. I don't know whether you've installed anything in there, but I'm sure you visited. And so from a cultural aspect, from the respect to the history of Dresden, how would you approach a project like this? If somebody, has Dresden approached you to do something there in these two areas, the Opera House or the Cathedral?
Yeah, so unfortunately during the World War II, our city was grounded. Almost 80% of Dresden was destroyed, and it's now completely rebuilt after World War II. And in my opinion, one of the most beautiful cities in Germany. It's a very calm, historic town, a lot of history in the town, a lot of beautiful buildings. And I need to make some little advertisement for our company building. This is one good example. We are in a very old villa from 1903, and the owner who built up the villa was the Saxony financial minister of the country. So in this building we are now sitting and on a daily basis and developing our products. Now, regarding your question, of course we are very interested in putting our technology into local markets like Dresden. And I'm happy that we are now part of a production for the Semper Opera House. This opera house is one of the famous opera houses in European Union. So there's a lot of tourists coming to Dresden just to see an event in this venue, like you. So I think at the end of this year, in October, November, there's a production starting called Swan Lake.
Yeah.
Swan Lake.
At the ballet, yeah.
And they put a new interpretation of Swan Lake, and they put LEDs on the stage, and they now interact with the technology. So we have also controllers on the market where you can make interaction. So this will happen in a very typical old historic Semper Opera house. The outside is just warm white LEDs. There's no media facade, no blinky RGB. No, this is not happening. But inside, it's coming. So, yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So you do believe that some buildings need to be left alone to preserve our history, and some
Absolutely.
buildings we just need to go wild with.
Absolutely, yes. And that's because of, because you know, Dresden, especially the old part, when you see the Church of Our Lady was completely grounded. Another good example, we put just warm white on this building. RGB would completely destroy
Absolutely.
this situation. Same for the Semper Opera house. It's not possible. But we do have bridges, so which could be illuminated. Even if it's just warm white, you can have pixel mapping on warm white LEDs. You know, it's possible. I would like to see this technology coming more into Dresden, into our historic town, but in a way where it respects our German way of thinking. Maybe.
Yeah, very interesting. In fact, me and Charles were talking yesterday about how we are using facade lighting at your venue to use technology to actually get through to the masses and to sort of break away from the elitist nature of the building by lighting it from outside and making it inviting for everybody to come and visit the venue.
Absolutely. I mean, when you build a high-end venue that we are speaking about now, when you try to build a high-end venue, and there is a company that is involved in it, which is a very, very reputed name company, so it becomes very challenging and difficult for a normal person to walk in a venue like that. So it's very important, like we spoke with VIRAF yesterday, it's very important to market it, to say that this is a high-end venue, but open to everyone. So the elegance is there, but it is open to everyone. So it is open for everyone. So everybody gets an opportunity to see something like that. You know, when you see a venue like that from the outside, you are reluctant to go in because you're not sure if I'll be invited or not in that. So it's very important to market the venue in such a way that it is an open venue for everyone. It's not a venue for the high-end people itself, but it is a venue for everyone who can come in and experience the feeling of what really a venue is like. So that was the whole idea of this venue.
Yeah, because it's all about human emotion, and that's got nothing to do with the size of your pocket, right? Yes. Rashesh, you wanted
Go ahead. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, as he was saying about high-end venues, so recently I was in Macau, so it was House of Dancing Water. So they are trying to refurbish this whole high-end venue. They've been running this venue for years, and now they wanted to start a new show. And I've seen the amount of challenges inside the venue because the whole venue, it's so complex with too many turbines and jet engines. So they've been working around this with maybe since 2 years, and I've seen the challenges in terms of the atmosphere or the products, because the products in today's technology are so advanced, so how are they going to adapt to the atmosphere? The places they were installed, because in old generations things were so simple for them to replace them, but now it's going to be more challenging for them to adapt the atmosphere in the old venue, which was built maybe 20, 30 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Rashesh, you have something to say?
I think technology will come to rescue in these venues. And also we'll see a lot more high-end venues in terms of public experience, because we are a large country. And honestly, you know, the people that can be in a very high-end venue like the NMACC, but at the same time, what he mentioned about the Gateway of India, when you see projection, experience that actually goes out to the masses, yeah, and world class, and at probably a very important monumental site. So there are, I think, hundreds of these sites across the country, and we should see a good amount of technology put to use.
You know, again, I just want to say something, and that is that entertainment in the old days, where you did not have audio systems, and if you did not have lighting, you had very rudimentary, fire. So every little location had their own storytellers, or had their own little devices, maybe puppets, maybe whatever they had, to tell a story, right? And I've seen this in the development of, again, theater and opera around the world, is that the more technology that has happened, correct, we're building venues that have become richer and more opulent, because obviously only the rich people can build venues, right? And perhaps in the old days it was the kings and the government. And perhaps what happened was that whole tradition of storytelling sort of went away from the common man, and it became a very elitist exercise, where only somebody who could, like in the NMACC, the kind of ticket prices there are, only somebody of a certain standard, or somebody who has a large disposable income. So art and theater became a reasonably elitist pastime, so to speak. But I'm thrilled to see that by using the technology, and by opening it out, and by creating more avenues to get income, right, we're using the technology to spread the basic art of storytelling and the basic art of engagement with the city. Because when you see your Gateway of India lit up, or when you see the Opera House lit up in Dresden, it makes the residents feel prouder of their city. And it's not just an elitist exercise, but it's something that reaches every single person in the city. Would you guys like to talk about this idea? Yeah?
This comes from my experience in large format projection systems. We started doing this in the year 2000, so it's almost 24 years of large format projection. And there's a pet project that we've worked on from time to time, which is the art for masses by classes. What I would like to add to what VIRAF said, that art became a privilege. And I don't mean a privilege only in terms of the monies, also in terms of time, in terms of inclination. So imagine you are on Marine Drive and you're seeing an art exhibition projection on Air India building. Now the mother who doesn't have the time with the children to go, but she's taking a walk, can show the child the art. That's one. A busy executive, a thela wala selling peanuts to you. He cannot go into a high venue because of the mindset, the privileges of the mindset. He's not going to go into a Jahangir art gallery to see the art, but it's come out to him. So I think in the future we want to see more without the pocket being an issue, or the time being an issue, or the fact that I don't like art, I don't go to a gallery. But when you see something and you like it, I think you will cross over to that side.
Yeah, it's coming to you. You don't have to go to it.
Exactly.
Christian, you have something to say?
Yeah, just some developments from the UK market. There's a new trend since like 3, 4, 5 years now. So there are spin studios, for example, which were very famous in the UK. There's a lot of spin studios around the UK. Now, today, all the spin studios have RGB LEDs installed. Most of them, like 80, 90%, are using our products. What's happening inside is people can interact with the lights. So as faster they are going on the bikes, the light effects will automatically follow from red to green, or from red to white, or from black to white, depending on the speed. And the teacher in front, he's leading the speed. So if he's doing white, you should follow with white. And if you're too slow, he can see it immediately, because of the color.
Very interesting.
Super cool. This is a new trend. Also, the last years, high-end venues could be a bar, a restaurant, right? So in a typical restaurant situation, you can't see the RGB lights because they complement the ceiling. This is what I told you. So the installation was well made. You can't see really any RGB information during daytime. The whole venue is changing over the night. So you start with maybe dinner, and during the dinner there's a DJ playing music in the venue, and it changes dramatically over the dinner. It's getting louder. The stools and table will move away. They turn on the lights, and the restaurant moved into a nightclub. So
Nice.
there's no more need to go into a nightclub anymore. So you enjoy your dinner with your family, and then you start dancing after your dinner. This is also an interesting thing.
Very interesting.
The same concept, but translated into another chore that most of us find difficult, gyms, which we really don't want to go to, but we need to. And we already have installations in India where it turns into exactly the same thing, where not everybody wants to go to a nightclub, or not everybody does, but still wants to dance. So there are clubs, there are gyms in India where MADRIX has been installed, and the same concept where people are enjoying that experience of a club, but exercising it away.
Okay, I'm going to ask, this discussion has really gone way. This is one of those, sixers that has fallen outside the stadium. But I'm going to bring it back a little bit to what I promised Christian I'm going to ask, is that he sent me a clip, unfortunately we don't have it here, of where he installed MADRIX in an ice skating venue, okay? And as we were talking about a little earlier, it's almost impossible to convert an ice skating venue into anything different from what it is, right? People are going to come and skate. Either you play some, ice hockey or some sport on the rink, or you just skate. And I think it was very interesting about how he set up his systems on that ice skating rink, which is tremendously limiting. The other flip side is that you can't ever do ice skating in any other venue, right? So I just want Christian to talk about what were the principles that you used to install that system to make sure that all the skaters and all the players who came onto that rink had a varied experience every time they approached the rink.
So we did not the project, but we supplied our products to this arena. The project is in Ukraine. You can find the video on the YouTube on our channel. Well, the situation there is they have RGB W LEDs in the ceiling. They have RGB LEDs in the ice. And they have generic, like typical warm white, cold white lights for any urgent cases where whatever they need to turn on full brightness because something urgently happened. And also there, because of the technology you have and pixel mapping, you can really do fancy stuff there. So light can follow the people depending on the position of the eyes. Also, of course, you have a music playing there. So it's not a nightclub, but because of the situation with lights, with the RGB lights, and ice skating, so they are dancing on the ice. So it's not a typical stupid thing in a, like this. So it's more like
Yeah.
for the
I
younger
completely get
generation,
it.
for the kids, and they enjoy this. Yeah.
Yeah. Charles, you've been quiet for a while. I wanted to ask you, right? Today, as far as traditional venues are concerned, your venue probably has the highest the highest level of technology, right? But I'm sure you guys know that other people are going to be installing it soon. So what kind of areas, you don't have to talk about details, we don't want to give away any secrets, but what are the areas you're now looking at to install maybe 2-3 years down the line that will keep you as the #1 venue in the city, at least if not the country?
VIRAF, before we go into this, I want to go back to your conversation about high-end venue and promoting art and culture.
Sure.
So I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this, that the NMACC, which holds the most high-end venue, have 2 other smaller venues which actually promotes a lot of Indian artists. I mean, like we go back to what Rashesh said, it's not the pocket, like you said, it's not the pocket now, it's to promote your country, to promote the culture. So this is what the venue has bought. In fact, the venue has bought one of the finest international Broadway West End shows over here, where I think a common man would always hear about it or probably wait to go to a Broadway or West End to watch this show. Which has come to India is this venue has bought something where India, they've shown India to the world. This is the whole idea of this venue. Going back to your question of what technology will come in, is...
even an idea, not just the technology, but what the idea is.
See, as of now, the idea is, like you said, is equipment is enough. I mean, equipment keeps changing, technology keeps changing. You have to enhance that. You know, that will keep happening. The only thing which might come is if there is a large infrastructure change that needs to be there. That is the only thing which will take a while. I mean, you don't need to do that. But most important change that will come is the enhancement of technology, the advanced technology which is there. To up our game, what we've really done is to get one of the best shows that only is the one that brings you your footfall.
Yeah,
we are
so
not
you
looking at a
harness
competition.
the technology that you already have,
Yes.
rather than install new technology. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Sorry, I didn't get your question. What you said?
So now you're focusing more on harnessing the technology that you've installed,
Yes.
rather than installing new technology.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
that's a
I
good
think
point.
whenever new technology comes, it's just a matter of integration. That's what everybody does. I mean, you know, every venue will do the same thing. I mean, you won't go back to ground zero and change the entire thing. Because it's become easier now to upgrade your system than to upgrade the entire venue.
No, good point. Bunty, you've been quiet for a while. What do you see happening for yourself and MA as a control system in the next few years?
Yeah, definitely. As they were saying, to bring attention to the country, I'm seeing this a lot in Saudi Arabia, where, as he was saying, promoting an artist. So in Saudi Arabia, there are these places where they wanted to highlight the place. So they are promoting the artist to the place where the place can become more famous for people to visit. This is something which I have seen in my experience so far. In terms of how people can create impact to the place, in terms of the history, in terms of, in India, you see forts. So people wanted to highlight these forts where people can come into and we can put the technology into it. And I was talking to one of the designers last night about a fort in UP where the color changes of the fort, where the queen of the fort just fallen down from that specific point. So with respect to time, that point keeps on changing the color than the whole atmosphere. So
good point.
And when it comes to us as MA Lighting, what we are looking at, we are looking into adapting us into internet, because people want everything to be controlled remotely. Maybe I want to control the venue or a fort in some part of the world from here. So how we can adapt to the internet to control that.
Why didn't you do this 20 years ago? I mean, it's so much fun to operate shows sitting at home rather than go down some bloody dusty road. Akbar is smiling. He's traveled many dusty roads with me. Rashish, you have something to say?
As he points out, he's talking about a fort. I think the journey is going to get much more interesting with AI and ability to have augmented reality. Imagine sitting in a chair and seeing a light and sound show, or walking through a light and sound show with every nook and corner having its little story, the heritage, what is not known to us. Because I've visited a number of sites where a local guide will tell me something I could not Google. Yeah? And imagine if that comes together. Now that becomes, for me, a high-end venue because it's the experience. I want to also share another experience of saying that, as we said, the art comes to the people rather than them going in. Similarly, in a high-end outdoor auditorium, I've had the privilege of being in a place where the stage doesn't rotate, the audience rotates. And it's set in the middle of a field. So you could have a battle scene in one section and the entire stage, and we're talking about 400 people, not 10, 20, 30, 40 people, which goes, and the other side of the grounds has another set completely. And imagine, it's in outdoor, so if I'm depicting a battle scene, yes, there are 200 people on that field. And that is, again, a very high-end venue for me, though it's not about the technology, it's just about an idea.
Okay, does anybody have something to add? Otherwise, yeah, please, Christian.
Just regarding trends and what I see for the future is, I need to go back to the past. In 2005, we introduced MADRIX version 1.0 beta at the ProLight and Sound Show in Frankfurt. And at that time, we had a software license which were able to control like 10 DMX universes. It was huge at that time. And people told us, listen, nobody needs ever 10 DMX universes. What we see here, when you walk around here, you see a lot of LEDs. The pixels are getting more and more. High-end venue. Do a research, go on YouTube and look for Sanremo Music Festival and MADRIX. This is a music festival for 1 week in Italian television, live streamed on Rai Uno. This stage is a 3-dimensional stage, so with different Z layers. And the amount of LEDs are so big that not one single computer is enough anymore. We are using now 2 or 3 high-end computers. So there's really no limitation in this. And we, as a manufacturer, we must make sure that our technology, even it's crazy, must be available and must be easy to use for the end users and system integrators. This is a big challenge for us as manufacturers.
Okay, let me end with 2 things. One is museums, which we've not touched upon. Now, I understand that museums is more about audiovisual, okay? But especially in a country with our kind of history, and a lot of people not having access to our history, museums is a big thing. Now, I understand completely that museums are more audiovisual, are more AV screens rather than lighting, okay? But I just want to talk about is that there's so many different kind of museums being set up. You know, museums of light being set up all over the place. There's a fabulous one in Hamburg, just been set up, which I'm hoping to visit shortly. Can you talk about, and you know, the NMACC has got some marvelous museum spaces. There you go. So can we just talk quickly about how you see museum spaces being transformed by lighting technology? Anybody like to go first?
My answer is interactive part. So people can walk to a location, interact with, no matter if it's sound or light or projection, whatever it is. This all technology is available from us, from other manufacturers. So we have controllers available where people moving to a location, light show starts automatically, immersive 360-degree audio can start to make an introduction about the object, what he's looking for, or something like this. People are walking away, light show stops, audio stops, all this. It's fully automatic, already possible.
VIRAF museum, you don't, now the technology is so advanced that you don't need to go to a museum to create this entire, you know, this entire, what do you call it, experience. You can create it in anywhere in the space because like in last year we had done art museum for ancient wardrobes and all thing at the CEC. So we created the entire museum itself over there. So it's again, it's technology that is overtaking. So you don't need a resident place or a museum. Of course, the museum remains the museum. You can enhance that. But you also can get a museum to a place where people cannot go to the museum. Like he says, you can go to smaller towns and create that entire experience from them. So this is where high-end technology comes in.
Excellent. Rashesh, you have something to say?
2 aspects. One is drawing from what he said. Recently, the city saw, or rather in the last year, the Van Gogh installation. Again, temporary but a high-end installation in my opinion, because we've seen this in other countries.
In a very fuddy-duddy venue.
Well, the point here is that I'm going to take the positives, that was I able to take my child over there, because there is school, there is my time, and then there is a cost. Now, if yes, it's a petered down version, maybe not the experience, but even if it's 75%, I'm okay with it. Because I'm able to reach out to the masses, and especially young minds who can understand, I can talk about the technology, about the art itself, and it's interactive. So yes, you know, there is scope for all of that.
Yeah, the most important thing is engagement, right?
Exactly. So I come back again and again to that user experience and how can we translate it to the masses, because only then you're going to make a difference. there is a certain elite in our country which can go any part of the world. They'll go to Amsterdam, to the museum itself, and enjoy it. But that is not what it's for me, for India. It's about how many people are able to get exposed to it, because there is so much art over here, and how we showcase it. So we can draw parallels from around the world and probably present our version of it at a level which touches a lot of, the masses, so as to say.
Okay, so let me end this very interesting session by one of something that has really caught my eye, and I've seen a lot. But this has really caught my eye in a city of Las Vegas. And Las Vegas has probably seen everything there is to be seen, right? I mean, you recreated Paris, you've recreated the whole world somehow on that one road. But recently, there is something called the Sphere that has opened. If you have not seen it, please immediately go there right now and have a look at it. And what's amazing is that the Sphere has just done away with every single architectural point, okay? It's a sphere. And if we all look at the sky, the only thing that you can see up in the sky is a sphere. And also, when you are walking this earth, in the end, we are a sphere, right? So they've just taken away everything. They've just made a sphere, covered it entirely with LEDs, both inside and out. And from, please go look at it on Instagram or YouTube or any of these fancy things that bring life into your homes. And I just think that even an idiot like me who's seen everything just marvels at how suddenly in the middle of nowhere, one little smiley face suddenly becomes so engaging. And 30 seconds later, it becomes a planet. Now, I've seen planets since I was a kid, right? But somehow watching the planet or watching the sphere turn itself into a planet just gives me a perspective that I couldn't even have thought about. And I think that is to some way is an idea of what is possible with technology and was just not possible a few years ago. Something like that to end the seminar with?
Inside of the sphere, by the way, are thousands, tens of thousands of loudspeakers directly integrated behind the LED wall. So you have an immersive sound coming when birds are flying directly in front of you. It's unbelievable. You need to see this.
Yes, yes. First I have to get to Dresden, then I'll get to Thank you. Charles, you have something to say?
Yeah, VIRAF, we've all spoken about how high-end venues are, how they are created and all, but we haven't spoken about the challenges that go behind that. You know, there's always a challenge between...
Don't tell these guys. Let them find out the hard way. No, please, please.
Okay. So there's a lot of challenge between the visionary who looks at what the place has supposed to be, and then there is an architect who designs everything. And then the third part, the most interesting part is when the equipment designers come in. You know? So always the case is the architect, I'm not blaming the architect. Sometimes the architects are good designers. They're all good designers. But integration between equipment and architectural becomes a marriage that we need to educate them. Because for them, a place has to look opulent. It has to light good. But when we give them solution of how to light it, it becomes a speck in their eye because their design gets for a toss. So I think VIRAF, somewhere down the line, it is also our responsibility to educate the visionary, to educate the principal, to educate the architect, marry along the equipment and your design of engaging your art, your audio, lighting, video and everything to the design that is done. Usually what happens is the architect is like a person who takes us into a local train and goes to his destination. When we miss our destination, then we have to come back and say, "Yaar, we have to change the entire plan." You know, so we have to actually marry this integration between the architect and technology and educate these people, because we can't sit and say, okay, this is the design, then we have to go by that. But I think we have to put our foot down somewhere and educate them and, you know, make it more engaging and make it more vibrant. That's only my point.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, as I will definitely agree with what Charles said, we need to educate them the challenges and the possibilities of the technology with respect to the space that we are in. Yeah, they can decide what they want, yeah, it is possible, but it is very important for us to educate them first of what is possible and what is not possible so that they can decide what they want. Absolutely, yes.
You know, after interacting with many architects, when they're good people. Somewhere at the bottom of all that, they're good people, okay? As irritating as they are to people like us. But I'll tell you how I deal with them, and perhaps this is a lesson. They are in love with shapes, okay? And the problem is that the world has been in love with shapes for the last 500 years. And engineering has allowed them to make the strangest shapes in the planet. Today, unfortunately, people who are engaging with these new buildings are now used to the shapes, correct? Like starting from the Ambani's glass pyramid, which was completely earth-shattering a couple of years ago, today everybody has a glass pyramid that they are looking at, okay? So architects are in love with shapes. We're in love with ideas and the possibilities of what you can do with the shape. Okay, we have to educate them is that the minute you give us a shape, you're limiting yourself completely. Okay, and then that's why I'm bringing up the idea of the sphere, because the sphere is the most basic shape in the world, correct? And because it's the most basic shape in the world, not the easiest shape to deal with, but because it's the most basic shape in the world, it gives us incredible possibilities of what to do with it. Yeah? So, love the architects, but I don't know about educating them because they spend a lot of time and energy educating themselves. But maybe show them this idea and maybe you'll get a breakthrough.
I'm with them on all these topics. If you don't mind, I have a classic example of the shapes, architect, and technology. That's the ceiling of the Nita Mukesh Ambani's center, which is a lotus design, and I got a chance to see it, I think 8 or 9 years ago. And the technology has evolved to a point where, yes, the vision could come true. There is MADRIX, of course. I mean, I'm not talking about the products, but the fact that at that point in time, it was just an idea from an architect saying, I want this shape and these many lights. And how it took from that design on a sheet of paper all the way to what we see now. So yes, there will be you'll have to strike a balance. And I think as the technology providers or the people behind, we have to work with the creative team of architects to bring their vision as the best possible means in technology, but also the fact which becomes a challenge is the economics of it.
I think Bunty here will be thrilled because this big fat lotus chandelier is integrated into the lighting board. So when the stage turns red, there is a possibility of the whole ceiling turning red. So here's a step forward. Okay, any other questions from the audience? Do we have anybody or everybody is just too completely shocked and, we never thought this was possible? Okay? Okay, let's end the seminar. Anybody on stage have something to say? Yeah?
I just want to thank everybody for having the patience and being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, really appreciate
Thanks
Palm
a
for
lot.
giving us this platform to have these ideas.
Definitely, I appreciate. If you still have any questions, I would love to answer you. Yeah, thanks a lot for staying.
But now you'll have to
with us.
buy him a
Thanks lot.
coffee somewhere outside. We've lost the time on stage.
Also, I will stay like 5 to 10 minutes more here in the room, and if you have any questions regarding us, ask me. Thank you very much for your time.
It's the same.
All right, thank you.
Also, I would like to thank VIRAF for conducting this and posing us some challenging questions. He's a mentor to the industry, so really appreciate him being here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, esteemed moderator and panelists, for delivering such a wonderful, wonderful session. May I please request to stay back on the stage for a moment more while I present a token of appreciation to all of you.